I read 50 books in 2021. Let's talk about them. I usually have my reading goals at around 40 books a year, and that was also my goal for 2021, but somehow I managed to read 50, so I surpassed my goal, though I do think it's because I did read quite a lot of shorter books. And not only did I surpass my reading goal, but it was the most books I read since I started cataloging books on Goodreads. So let's quickly go through some stats, because I don't know about you, but I like me some stats. This year I also tried out Storygraph, which is another book social media, which I think is better than Goodreads in a lot of ways. On Storygraph, I can see that I read a total of 13,434 pages, and my most read mood is adventurous, which makes sense. I read a lot of fantasy. On average, I read more books that were under 300 pages, but also quite a lot that were between 300 and 500. 87% fiction and 13% non-fiction. Definitely not my biggest non-fiction year, though I do like to read non-fiction. Very predictable. My most read genre is fantasy by far. And then young adult, although there is still a discussion whether young adult should be a genre or just an age category, because in my head it's an age category, not a genre in of itself. And then I mostly read print books with quite a bit of digital and a little bit of audio. I really need to up my audiobook game. And here is a look into my reading year. You can see that in June I read the least amount of books, and in December and July and August I read the most. I think I gave 7 books 5 stars, and the majority of the books I gave 3 stars. And now let me tell you about all of the books that I read in 2021 with rapid fire reviews. So these will be very, very short reviews. I'll be going in reverse order, so the latest books that I read, but I will be clumping some of them together. So it's kind of in order of reverse, but not really. So the first one is XOXO by Axie O. This is a YA contemporary K-pop book, and this was so much fun and so cute. And I mean, I'm a huge fan of K-pop, so this was like exactly what I needed at the time, and I would definitely recommend it. The Curie Society, the only graphic novel that I read this year. I did really enjoy it. It's about awesome women in STEM doing awesome things. Definitely recommend. Then I read some writing craft books, Romancing the Beat, a very short but to the point book about story structure, specifically for romance. Then I read 2 books in the Marketing for Author series, Secrets to Selling Books on Social Media and Plan a Profitable Book Launch. I thought they were pretty good. They gave me some new information. 2 cozy mysteries I read this year, Bookmarked for Death and The Jasmine Moon Murder. I liked Bookmarked for Death, definitely. I did not really like The Jasmine Moon Murder, but as far as cozy mysteries, I would definitely recommend Bookmarked for Death. It is about an unlikely detective in the form of a bookshop owner, a mystery bookshop owner who stumbles upon the death of a local famous author, and it's up to her to solve the crime. Queen of Shadows. I've spoken this recently in my reading the highest rated books that I own. Not my favorite of the series. I'm not sure if I will continue on with the Throne of Glass series. 2 stories by Robert Louis Stevenson, The Bottle Imp and Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. These were both in the same book, but they're 2 separate stories. I actually enjoyed The Bottle Imp more than I did Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. A Man Called Ove. I loved this book. This is one of my favorite books that I read this year. This is about an old grumpy man who refines the meaning in life. And it was just beautiful, really funny, and very heartwarming. The Last Graduate. No. Just no, this series is such a waste of a perfectly good premise, and I will be stopping here. Sacred Fire, this is a short story in the Binti collection, and I really enjoyed it. I really like Binti. I need to continue on with the other novellas in the series. A very short philosophical read, this is The Egg by Andy Weir, and it's really, really short, but I would definitely recommend giving it a go. The Historian, a dark academia about the lore of Dracula. Super interesting, really slow. I think it was too slow. If it would have been a faster pace, I think I would have enjoyed it more, but this is kind of a combination between, think sort of Robert Langdon, The Da Vinci Code, and Count Dracula. A Dowry of Blood. This is also one of my favorite books that I read this year. This is about Count Dracula again and his 3 brides. So this is a polyamorous bi-relationship spanning centuries, and it was exquisite. And then of course, Dracula, which was my least favorite Dracula book that I read this year. I have a whole reading vlog about reading Dracula books, and among the 3 that I read, this was my least favorite. 2 Sally Rooney books, Conversations with Friends and Normal People. She has a really interesting writing style. I know it might not be for everyone, but I enjoy it. Definitely think Normal People is better though, and I'm very curious about her newest book. She writes really sad, almost depressing love stories about ordinary people, and for some reason, I just really enjoyed reading both of these. I don't know what that says about me, but yes. The Empress of Salt and Fortune. This is a fantasy novella, and to be honest, I don't get the hype. I don't know. I did not get this. The Sweetness at the Bottom of the Pie, the only book I did not finish this year. I could not. It was about a 12-year-old girl who's really smart and really into chemistry, and she again stumbles upon a murder, and it's up to her to investigate. So premise-wise, sure. I just could not stand the writing style, and it put me in a reading slump, so no. On the very opposite end of the spectrum, The Nightingale, which I was putting off reading because I did not think I would enjoy this, and it ended up being one of the best books that I read in 2021. It was just so beautiful and heartbreaking, but I loved every second of it. If you're up for some historical fiction, definitely give this one a go. Actually read 3 Neil Gaimans this year. The Ocean at the End of the Lane, which I absolutely loved. This is a sort of dark fairy tale-esque fantasy about a man who goes down memory lane. Then I also read Stardust, also in a similar vein, a very fairy tale-esque like story, very humorous, almost a parody of fantasy, but quite enjoyed it. And then a very short story, How the Marquis Got His Coat Back. This takes place in the Neverwhere universe, and it was just a very short, enjoyable little read. I really enjoy Neil Gaiman's writing style, and I'm really looking forward to reading more from him this year. It was The Night Shift Before Christmas. This is a little companion novella to This Is Going to Hurt by Adam Kay, which I absolutely love. This is a medical diary, but a very humorous medical diary. And this little novella was, of course, all about sort of the night shift before Christmas. Then I read the 2nd volume in the Rhaeria Revelation series, Rise of Empire. This included 2 books, so it's a bind-up of 2 books, and I enjoyed this. Not as much as I did the first one. I think this was a lot slower, a lot more character focused. There was a lot of character development, not as much plot and adventure as the first one, but I'm really looking forward to also finishing this series this year. And I read 3 short novellas by the same author, The Tides of War, A Song in the Deep, and The Law of the Lair. These are prequel novellas to the main series, and I really enjoyed it. I think this series has some really, really interesting water-based world.
I didn't get that. Could you try again?
No.
Okay.
No. Go away. Infinity Blade Awakening. No. I think this is a game that I've never heard of, and he wrote a little story in that game's universe. I didn't like this. No. It feels like a sacrilege to say anything about not liking Brandon Sanderson, since he is my favorite author at this point, but this is a skip. It's a skip, okay. Oathbringer. Boy, this book is long. This is the longest book I've ever read, and things only started happening around page 900 out of 1,400. But it was really good. Like, it was still really, really good. Not my favorite in the series, but for a 1,400 page book where things only really started going page 900, yeah, it was good. It's good. Skyward, the best book that I read in 2021. This was, like I keep saying, a masterclass in writing a YA sci-fi. It was so perfectly executed. I enjoyed every minute of it. All the characters, the plot, the world building, the humor, everything was perfect. And I cannot recommend this book more highly. Please read it. Please read it. Loveless, an awesome ace arrow story about our main character who goes on her first year of university, and she discovers herself and tries to make new friends, and it was very relatable in a lot of ways, and really, really enjoyed it. The Duke and I. Honestly, in the beginning, I really enjoyed this, and then the plot took a really, really problematic turn, and I it put me off the entire thing, so I will not be continuing on with this series. Assassins of Brush and Blade, a really short novella, again that kind of sets up the main universe of the main series, and I really enjoy the magic system. It reminds me of something that I'm working on myself, all about calligraphy magic, and I thought it was really cool. Born a Crime. I expected comedy, instead I got tragedy. Kings of the Wild. Yes, this was the most fun fantasy book I read this year. Generally the most fun book I read in 2021. One of my favorite books. Amazing adventure, fantasy adventure, getting the band back together. So funny, just fantastic. Daisy Jones and the Six. Such a dramatic tale of how two artists came together to collaborate on an album and how they also very dramatically disband. Really addictive. It's told in sort of interview format. Breach of Peace. It was okay. It was a decent read, but I'm definitely interested in the sequel and I'll definitely read more by Daniel Green. Animal Farm. Yup, it's Animal Farm. I don't know what to say about this. It's a political satire and it was really good. The Gender Games. This was a really interesting look into gender and being a trans woman, and I enjoyed it. I think I learned a lot. And I think Juna Dawson is a really good author, and I would love to read more of what she's written. Come Tumbling Down, the 5th installment in the Wayward Children series. Children going into portal fantasies and chaos ensues. This was my least favorite installment in the series. I'm probably still gonna continue reading. It's kind of dropped on my list of priorities, to be honest, especially after this 5th installment. Metamorphoses. Boy, this was a weird book. This is about a guy who wakes up and he's a massive cockroach, and just how he deals with that and how his family deals with him suddenly being a massive cockroach. They suddenly have a massive cockroach in the house, and it was really, really strange. Yeah. Where the Rhythm Takes You, a really fresh and beautiful YA contemporary from a former critique partner of mine, and I really enjoyed reading it. The Ones Who Walk Away from Amelas is another very short philosophical read, and I don't want to give anything away because I really think you should just read it. Another Stardust. I did not like this one. I only read it because I wanted to read 2 books called Stardust, and this was the one I did not like out of the pair. This is a Christian historical fiction, and I just... nah. A Short History of Nearly Everything. Probably my least favorite Bill Bryson book that I've read. I usually really enjoy his stuff, and this is his most popular book, but I honestly didn't enjoy it that much. It was still good. It's just a bunch of facts about literally almost everything, as the title neatly suggests, but yeah, I much prefer his other books. And lastly, I Wish You All the Best. Again, a coming-of-age story about a non-binary character. Not as well written and as original in plot as I would like. So I'm kind of conflicted about this one because on one hand, yes, we need these stories. But on the other hand, I wish it would have just been a better story. Do you know what I mean? Like, I wish it would have had a better plot and better writing. So, okay. I have almost finished my tea and we have gone over the 50 books that I read in 2021. What a journey. What a journey. I do think this was a very successful reading year. I read a lot outside of my comfort zone. I kind of had these little challenges for myself, and it made me discover some really new books that I might not have picked up otherwise. But it was a lot of mismatch of everything, as you can see. But that's honestly how I read. Like, yes, I mostly read fantasy, but at the same time, as you can see, I pretty much read anything that'll catch my interest. Definitely looking forward to all of the books that I will read this year in 2022. I have a massive TBR. Like, I keep buying books and then I do read them. It's just I don't read them as fast as I buy them. So I really am hoping to make a dent, like a good dent in my TBR in 2022, and definitely read a lot more big fat fantasy books because I haven't read that many in 2021. I read one, really the biggest and fattest fantasy book, and I think that kind of was like enough. And I read a lot of shorter books afterwards. Cool. So let me know what was some of your favorite books that you read in 2021. How many books did you read in 2021? Did you meet your reading goal? Did you fail your reading goal? Click here for my top books of 2021 if you haven't seen it already. And click here for a reading vlog of reading the highest rated books that I own, where I go more in depth about some of the books that I mentioned very briefly in this video. Hope you have a great day, and I'll see you next time with a new video. Bye!